In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The most famous declaration in the Bible. But what if I told you that every verse of Genesis frontally contradicts modern scientific discoveries? That the order of creation is completely wrong? That the age of the earth, according to the Bible, is 6,000 years when science proves billions? That Adam and Eve never existed? Prepare yourself, because we are going to tear apart the book of Genesis with brutal scientific analysis. This is the portal to the unknown, where we confront religious dogmas with scientific evidence without fear. If you have the courage to see your faith tested by reason, subscribe to the channel now, activate the bell, and leave your like, because this video is going to be devastating for fundamentalists. Share it with those who value truth above tradition. Let's begin. Let's go straight to the first gigantic problem. Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This happens on the first day of creation. But the sun is only created on the fourth day. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night." And God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. Think about it. Light exists before the source of light. 3 whole days of morning and evening before the sun exists. How is this possible? Christian apologists argue that it was divine light, the glory of God illuminating. But the text clearly establishes a cycle of day and night, morning and evening, before the sun. Morning and evening are caused by the Earth's rotation relative to the sun. Without the sun, there is no morning or evening. The narrative is scientifically impossible, but it gets worse. On the third day before the sun, God creates plants. Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees, on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. Plants on the third day, sun on the fourth day. Any child who has studied photosynthesis knows that plants need sunlight to survive. How did plants survive 24 hours without the sun? The narrative is in a completely wrong order. The very sequence of creation contradicts everything we know about cosmology and evolution. Genesis says, first heavens and earth, then light, then separated waters, then dry land and plants, then sun, moon and stars, then aquatic animals and birds, then terrestrial animals, then humans. Science says first stars, including our sun, then earth forms from the solar nebula, then primitive atmosphere, then oceans, then single-celled life in the oceans, then photosynthesis creating oxygen, then multicellular life, then fish, then amphibians, then reptiles, then dinosaurs, then mammals, then primates, then hominids, then Homo sapiens. Completely different order. Genesis places birds before terrestrial animals. Verse 20, creation of birds on the 5th day. Verse 24, creation of terrestrial animals on the 6th day. Paleontology proves that birds evolved from terrestrial theropod dinosaurs. Archaeopteryx, the transitional fossil between dinosaurs and birds, lived 150 million years ago. Birds are literally avian dinosaurs that survived the Cretaceous extinction. Birds came after terrestrial animals, not before. Genesis is inverted, and speaking of dinosaurs, where are they in Genesis? Creatures that dominated the earth for 165 million years, from 230 million to 65 million years ago, simply do not exist in the creation narrative. Creationists try to force dinosaurs into the great sea creatures of verse 21, or the beasts of the earth of verse 25. But this is intellectual dishonesty. If dinosaurs were created, why are they not explicitly mentioned? Why does no biblical human ever mention these colossal creatures? The obvious answer is that the authors of Genesis, living 3,000 years ago, did not know that dinosaurs existed because fossils had not yet been discovered and correctly interpreted. They wrote based on the limited knowledge of the time, not on omniscient divine inspiration. Young Earth creationists like Ken Ham argue that dinosaurs lived alongside humans, that they were created on the sixth day, and that they were extinguished in the flood. But not a single human fossil has been found in geological strata with dinosaur fossils. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. If humans and dinosaurs coexisted, we should find fossils together. We don't because they live separated by 65 million years. Let's talk about the age of the Earth, genealogies. In Genesis chapters 5 and 11 allow us to calculate. When Adam was created by adding ages, Bishop Ussher in 1654 calculated that creation occurred in 4004 BC. Modern creationists estimate between 6,000 and 10,000 years. Geology, radiometry, cosmology all converge on an Earth age of approximately 4.5 billion years. The difference is not decades or centuries, it is billions of years. The Bible is wrong by a factor of almost 1 million. Geological layers demonstrate ancient age. Sedimentary strata took millions of years to form. Fossils are organized in a perfect chronological sequence. Deeper layers have more primitive organisms. Upper layers have more complex organisms. We never find fossils out of order. We never find a rabbit in the Cambrian. We never find a trilobite in the Cenozoic. If everything was created simultaneously and died in the flood, as creationists claim, fossils should be chaotically mixed. They are not. They are perfectly organized by evolutionary age. Radiometric dating uses the half-life of radioactive isotopes to determine the age of rocks. Carbon-14 works up to 50,000 years. For older rocks, we use potassium-argon, uranium-lead, rubidium-strontium. Multiple independent methods converge on the same ages. The oldest rocks on Earth are 4 billion years old. Meteorites and moon rocks are 4.5 billion. The age is scientifically incontestable. Creationists attack radiometry, alleging that decay rates have changed, that God created rocks with the appearance of age. But that makes God a deceiver, creating a universe with false evidence of billions of years when it is only thousands old. Why would God create light from distant stars in transit, making it appear to have traveled billions of years when it hasn't? That is cosmic dishonesty. Light from distant galaxies takes billions of years to reach here. The Andromeda Galaxy is 2.5 million light-years away. The light we see today left there 2.5 million years ago. There are galaxies 13 billion light-years away. If the universe is 6,000 years old, how do we see light from 13 billion years? Impossible, unless the speed of light was infinite in the past, which would create other catastrophic physical problems. Big Bang cosmology explains the origin of the universe 13.8 billion years ago. Cosmic microwave background radiation is the residual light from the Big Bang detected in all directions at a temperature of 2.7 Kelvin. The expansion of the universe is observable through the redshift of distant galaxies. Everything confirms the Big Bang. Genesis describes instantaneous creation, not the gradual expansion from a singularity. Let's analyze the flood. Genesis chapters 6 through 9. God commanded Noah to build an ark because he would destroy all life with a global flood. It rained 40 days and nights. The waters covered even the highest mountains. Everything died except Noah, his family, and the animals in the ark. Then the waters receded, the ark rested on Mount Ararat, and repopulation began. This story is geologically impossible. There is not enough water on Earth to cover Mount Everest. If all the water in the atmosphere, oceans, polar ice caps, and aquifers were spread evenly, it would cover up to 2.5 kilometers high. Everest is 8,848 meters. It wouldn't even come close. Creationists argue that mountains were lower before the RT flood. But plate tectonics shows that the Himalayas formed from the collision between the Indian and Eurasian plates 50 million years ago, a slow and continuous process. Mountains cannot emerge in months during or after a flood without global cataclysmic evidence that simply does not exist. 2 of every animal, 7 of every clean animal, on the ark. Genesis chapter 6 verse 19 versus chapter 7 verse 2, an internal contradiction. But let's ignore that. How many species are there? Conservative estimates, 8.7 million eukaryotic species, 6.5 million of which are terrestrial. Even considering only terrestrial vertebrates, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, that would be tens of thousands of species. How do they fit in the ark? With the dimensions described in Genesis chapter 6 verse 15, 133 meters long, 22 meters wide, 13 meters high. Total volume approximately 38,000 cubic meters. Ken Ham built a life-sized replica in Kentucky. Even with modern design tricks, it cannot realistically accommodate all species with a year's worth of food, ventilation system, and waste removal. And how did endemic animals from specific continents get to the ark and return after the flood? Did kangaroos from Australia swim the ocean? Did lemurs from Madagascar fly? Did sloths from South America cross the Atlantic? The biogeographical distribution of species completely contradicts a global flood. If all animals left the ark at Ararat in Turkey and spread from there, we should see a gradient of diversity decreasing with distance from Ararat. We don't. We see endemism, unique species in isolated regions, explainable by evolution and continental drift, unexplained by the flood. There is no global geological flood layer. There is no universal sedimentary marker dated 4,000 years ago. Civilizations like Egypt, China, and Mesopotamia have continuous records without catastrophic interruption during the period when the flood supposedly occurred. How did the Egyptians continue building pyramids if everyone drowned? Genetics refutes a recent population bottleneck. If humanity descends from Noah and 3 sons 4,000 years ago, we should have minuscule genetic diversity. We don't. Human genetic diversity requires a population never smaller than 10,000 individuals over the last 200,000 years. Impossible to descend from 8 people 4,000 years ago. Tree rings older than the flood exist. Bristlecone pines in California have living specimens nearly 5,000 years old. Counting chronologically overlapping rings of dead trees, we have a continuous record of 13,000 years. If there was a global flood 4,000 years ago, these trees would not exist. They do exist. Therefore, a global flood did not happen. Ice cores from Antarctica and Greenland preserve annual layers of compacted snow for hundreds of thousands of years. The Epica project extracted a core 3,223 meters long, covering 800,000 years. The layers are never interrupted by a catastrophic flood. If waters covered even the highest mountains, they covered the polar ice caps. The ice layers would have melted or been disturbed. They were not. They prove that the flood did not occur. Creationists try to reinterpret Genesis as a local, not global flood. But the text is explicit. Genesis chapter 7, verse 19. The waters prevailed so mightily on the earth that all the high mountains under the whole heaven were covered. Under the whole heaven means global. There is no way to reinterpret it. Adam and Eve, 2 humans created directly from dust and a rib 6,000 years ago, the parents of all humanity. Population genetics completely refutes this. The Human Genome Project sequenced complete DNA. By comparing genomes, we calculate the time to the most recent common ancestor. Mitochondrial Eve, the common female ancestor of all living humans, existed about 150,000 years ago. Chromosomal Adam, the common male ancestor, existed 200 to 300,000 years ago. And note, mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosomal Adam were not a couple. They lived in different eras and were part of populations of thousands of individuals. Hominid fossils show gradual evolution from primate ancestors to modern humans. Erdipithecus 4.4 million years ago. Australopithecus including Lucy 3.2 million years ago. Homo habilis 2.4 million years ago. Homo erectus 1.8 million years ago. Homo heidelbergensis 600,000 years ago. Homo neanderthalensis and Homo sapiens coexisting 400,000 years ago. gradual transition, not instantaneous creation. Modern DNA contains 2 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in non-Africans. This proves that Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis interbred, having fertile descendants. If humans were created separately from other hominids, how do we have Neanderthal DNA? Neanderthals were a separate species. They lived and disappeared. They left a genetic legacy in us. Evolution explains it perfectly. Creation does not explain it. Human vestigial organs prove evolutionary ancestry. The appendix, coccyx, erector pili muscle causing goosebumps, vestigial third eyelid wisdom teeth. All structures that had a function in ancestors but lost it in modern humans. The coccyx is a vestigial tail. We had a tail because we descend from tailed primates. Why would God create humans with tail remnants if we never had tailed ancestors? It only makes sense under evolution. Comparative embryology shows that human embryos go through stages that replicate evolution. Human embryos have gill slits like fish, tails like reptiles, then lose them as they develop. Why? Because embryonic development recapitulates evolutionary history. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. If we were created from dust, why does a human embryo temporarily have fish characteristics? Human chromosome 2 is the fusion of 2 chimpanzee chromosomes. Chimpanzees have 24 pairs of chromosomes. Humans have 23. Why? Because in a common ancestor, 2 chromosomes fused end to end. We can see the molecular scar exactly where the fusion occurred. Vestigial telomeres in the middle of chromosome 2. Inactive centromere. Irrefutable proof of common ancestry between humans and chimpanzees. Human and chimpanzee DNA are 98.8% identical. We have genes to produce vitamin C, but they are broken by the same mutation in humans and chimpanzees. If we were created separately, why do we share broken genes? It only makes sense if we inherited it from a common ancestor who suffered the mutation before divergence. Artificial selection in agriculture and animal breeding demonstrates evolution in real time. All dog breeds descend from domesticated wolves. Selective breeding by humans in just 20,000 years created the Chihuahua, Great Dane, Poodle, German Shepherd, all the same species but vastly different. If humans can create such diversity in thousands of years, imagine what nature can do in millions. Bacteria develop antibiotic resistance observable in the laboratory. When an antibiotic is introduced, it kills most bacteria. Some have a chance mutation that confers resistance. They survive, reproduce, and pass resistance to their descendants. Within generations, the entire population is resistant. This is natural selection, Darwinian evolution, observable, testable, and undeniable. HIV evolved from SIV, simian immunodeficiency virus. We can trace the mutations that allowed SIV to infect humans. We know when it happened, the early 20th century. We know where, Central Africa. Viruses evolving and jumping between species is not a theory, it is a documented fact. Genesis contradicts not only biology and geology, but also astronomy, physics, and chemistry. It contradicts everything we know through the scientific method. These are not subtle interpretive contradictions. They are fundamental factual conflicts. The Earth is not 6,000 years old. A global flood did not happen. Adam and Eve did not exist. Species were not created simultaneously. Evolution is a fact, but religious people do not abandon Genesis. Why? Because admitting that Genesis is literally wrong opens the door to questioning the entire Bible. If Genesis is allegory, can Exodus be too? Jesus too? The resurrection too? It is a theological domino effect. So they prefer to deny all of science to protect dogma. Scientific creationism and intelligent design try to give Genesis a scientific veneer. They have failed miserably. In the Dover versus Kitzmiller judgment in 2005, a U.S. federal court ruled that intelligent design is not science. It is creationism disguised, and cannot be taught as science in public schools. Judge Jones, a conservative Christian appointed by Bush, analyzed the evidence and concluded that intelligent design is fraud. Every creationist argument has been exhaustively refuted. Irreducible complexity? Refuted, the bacterial flagellum has evolutionary precursors. Gaps in the fossil record? We have thousands of transitional fossils. Does the second law of thermodynamics prevent evolution? No, the law applies to closed systems. The Earth receives constant energy from the sun. Every creationist argument is disguised ignorance or intentional dishonesty. The inconvenient truth is that Genesis was written by primitive humans attempting to explain the origin of the world without scientific knowledge. They copied and adapted Mesopotamian myths like Enuma Elish and Atrahasis. The Epic of Gilgamesh has an almost identical flood story written centuries earlier. The Hebrews borrowed, modified it for monotheism, and incorporated it into Genesis. It is not divine revelation. It is recycled regional mythology. The Bible contradicts science on every page of Genesis. These are not minor contradictions. They are fundamental conflicts between ancient mythology and demonstrable reality. If you value truth above religious comfort, share this video now. How many people do you know trapped in scientific fundamentalism? Tag them. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because here at the portal to the unknown, we confront dogmas with facts. And tell me, after this evidence, do you still believe in a literal Genesis? Or do you accept evolution? Comment. Until the next confrontation between faith and reason,